What's going on, guys? JSGC back again for another video where we're going to digest more about the big breaking news that's come out in the last hour or so about the associated party transaction rules, which have found to be unlawful, and the Premier League's decision on two specific Manchester City sponsorship transactions have now been set aside. So Manchester City have put out a very powerful statement in the last 60 minutes or so of me recording this video about everything that's gone on. So this is stemmed right through from the end of September, where we heard word about the Premier League weren't releasing the results of Manchester City's challenge on the APT rules, and it was thought that Manchester City had won that case. Now, due to the privacy and secrecy, it takes a while for things to come out, if they ever do come out, and things have been formalised and finalised as of today. So Manchester City and the Premier League were made aware of this back at the end of September. So City have had a very long time here, over a week, to prepare a very careful statement which they've put out today in challenging the Premier League's rule on the associated party transactions. And all the Premier League clubs have today found out about that result, and it's also been made public. So we're going to go through City's statement, we're going to go through some of the news that's come out after the statements have been made, and we'll draw up some conclusions from there, because I find this really interesting. I've not really dipped into all the court side of things and the legal challenges going on involving Manchester City, because we just quite simply don't have facts in front of us. Whereas today, for the first time in a long time, we've got some facts being put out in front of us, and it does very much seem like, if we was to score this in terms of a football game, this is Manchester City taking on the Premier League, and this ruling today has made it Manchester City 1, the Premier League 0. That's how I'm looking at this. So, Manchester City's statement first. So, I'll read out the statement. I'll put it on screen as well, so you can follow it along as I read it. So, it says, following today's publication of the Rule X Arbitral Tribunal Award, Manchester City Football Club thanks the distinguished members of the Arbitral Tribunal for their work and considerations and welcomes their findings. So here's the findings. The club has succeeded with its claim that the APT rules have been found to be unlawful, and the Premier League's decisions on the two specific Manchester City sponsorship transactions have been set aside. The tribunal found that both the original APT rules and the current, which has been amended, APT rules violate UK competition law and violate the requirements of procedural fairness. That's very big. Very big. It's about making things fair, and the Premier League have been deemed in putting rules in place that are actually not making things fair, and it's right there in black and white. Manchester City is the most powerful of all the statements. The Premier League was found to have abused its dominant position. That is a huge statement that's been put out. The Premier League has abused its dominant position. That's a gloves are off kind of comment made by Manchester City in this statement. The tribunal has determined both that the rules are structurally unfair and that the Premier League was specifically unfair in how it applied those rules to the club in practice. Again, very important. The rules were found to be discriminatory in how they operate because they deliberately excluded shareholder loans. As well as these general findings on legality, the tribunal has set aside specific decisions of the Premier League to restate the fair market value of two transactions entered into by the club. My understanding is Man City had two sponsorships turned down from the Premier League under these APT rules, and Manchester City have gone to the tribunal to challenge these rulings because they think that they're unfair, and ultimately it's cost Manchester City money, is where this is coming from. The tribunal held that the Premier League had reached the decisions in an unfair manner, and the tribunal also ruled that there was an unreasonable delay in the Premier League's fair market value assessment of the two club sponsorship transactions, and so the Premier League breached their own rules, which is very much egg on your face embarrassment from the Premier League in terms of these challenges. Now, the first thing you're going to be thinking about is, what does this mean about the 115 charges? Well, it means absolutely nothing. That challenge is going to come in November through even into early parts of December. Manchester City are preparing their case, the Premier League are preparing their case, and the ball's already rolling on that. We've already had dates set in motion. The body language that I've seen from the Manchester City legal team seems very positive. Manchester City have always maintained their innocence, are looking forward to clearing their name, and it won't be the end of the matter once these 115 charges are dealt with one way or the other, because the Premier League, if they lose, won't be happy or want to try and appeal if they can. If City lose, they'll want to try and appeal if they can, and it will go on and on and on. And this is now very much a little battle going on between City and the Premier League that's being done outside of football, that's being done sometimes inside the courtroom, sometimes being done inside the rooms where the tribunals are based. So it is what it is. Now, the next thing that I found really interesting is clubs have been given evidence for Manchester City trying to get rid of these APT rules, and some of the clubs have been siding in favour of the Premier League, and the Mail have named these clubs that have been supporting the Premier League, even though it's been legally declared as unfair and will no longer be in place from the Premier League. Will come as no surprise, the red cartel clubs, Arsenal, Manchester United and Liverpool, trying to protect their own interest. You're going to ask yourself why clubs who have got owners who have got so much money are not interested in making even more money by having more sponsorship money come into the club, whether that be small amounts or larger amounts with bigger sponsorships. Well, the only reason that Arsenal, Man United or Liverpool wouldn't want to make even more money, two reasons. Number one, they're already making enough money, more money than most other clubs, so it keeps them on top. But this is just what it's all about. And the second reason is it's all about making sure that the big clubs stay big and the little clubs stay little, and they cannot rise up and be successful. These three Premier League clubs, Arsenal, Manchester United and Liverpool, they do not like Chelsea. They do not like that they had that takeover in 2004 and managed to buy and sign players and managed to challenge what they consider their right to be successful. They did not like it when Manchester City had their takeover in 2008 and have done everything in their power to try and ensure that Manchester City stay under their thumb, and they've not been successful in doing so. And this 115 charges is the last round of them having the pop. This is unsuccessful for the Premier League. It's unsuccessful for the cartel clubs. They won't be able to constrain and restrict Manchester City. And at the moment, it is a losing battle for them. And in terms of the other clubs, I mean, it just, to me, West Ham supporting the Premier League's case. I know there's a few people that have been putting in the comments, feel betrayed by West Ham. They consider West Ham to be Manchester City's friend. Well, it's all to do with self-interest. West Ham obviously feel like they're gaining more from these rules being in place than not. Brentford, AFC, Bournemouth, Fulham, Wolves just doesn't make too much sense to me as to why they would be happy to be able to stay under the thumb of the red cartel clubs. All I can presume is that West Ham, Brentford, Bournemouth, Fulham and Wolves are very happy with the status quo, and they're very happy to continue to be Premier League clubs because they know that whilst they're getting huge amounts of sums from television, sponsorship rights and everywhere else involved globally with the Premier League brand, it keeps them a Premier League club, it keeps that money rolling in for them, and they don't have to be concerned too much about their finances. Whereas it'd be interesting should any of them 5 clubs that I just named are relegated as to where they'd stand on these APT rules, because at the end of the day, it's stopping money coming into the club that the Premier League has no right in stopping. It's there in black and white. Premier League has no right in being able to tell where clubs are getting their money from in terms of their sponsorship. So this, to me, is a huge legal victory for Manchester City. a statement that's been sent out that's very carefully worded and also very powerful from Manchester City. And I think Manchester City now are just saying to the Premier League, we've beaten you once here in the terms of having these APT rules overturned. Let's take on the 115 charges in November and let's clear our name. Manchester City do want to seek damages for APT rules and the sponsorship money that they've missed out on. Chelsea are remaining quiet, so I imagine that something may come from them. I'm hearing that Newcastle also want to challenge damages from the Premier League in terms of the APT rules that have now been disabandoned because Manchester City have dared to stand up to the Premier League, and in particular Arsenal, Manchester United and Liverpool. Gloves very much off. Very interesting legal battle. I'm not an expert when it comes to the legal rulings. There's very few people out there who are experts, and if you are an expert, you're probably working on the case, and therefore, due to due diligence, you're not able to speak about the case. So, a very interesting thing to keep an eye on. We wait for the facts. We've had some facts handed to us, and today is a very positive day for the victory for Manchester City's legal team, who now have got a very good record, managed to successfully overturn our Champions League ban at the CAS, and they've managed to overturn the APT rules for the Premier League from the tribunal as well. Now we head towards 115 charges, and we'll see where we go from there. And once we get the facts and everything's handed to us in terms of what's going to be happening and what the rulings are going to be, what's going to happen to Manchester City and what's going to happen to the Premier League and the next steps, once we get that information, of course, I'm happy to do another video for you guys. So there we go. That has been the video. Do leave a thumbs up. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do subscribe. Social media links are in the description, and I'll see you all again real soon for the next video. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.